Good morning, Shiners. If anybody's here, what a lovely day in the neighborhood, huh? Actually, the sun's shining here today. Depending on where you're at, you may be getting rained on. If you're in Florida, I hope you're okay. Bear with me just a moment. Good morning, Diana. Ian, good morning. John. I do have company this morning. Sorry about that, guys. I'd forgotten to close my door. Going to get the bad echo upstairs if I don't close my door. So please bear with me a moment. Had to finish off my juice. Yes, I do drink something besides alcohol. I mean, not alcohol, coffee. I drink something besides alcohol too. But not this early in the morning. How is everybody today? Sunny and 73. It's sunny here right now. Wind's starting to pick up. Don't know what the temp is. How about your way? Ian and Diana, what kind of weather do you have this morning? No, no, Ian, I don't have any Baileys in my coffee this morning. That's not a bad idea, though. I know where there's some at close at hand. I actually don't like to put, I'm not a big flavored coffee person, although Bailey's I can do. Coffee beans that start out with a flavor to me just don't taste right. There's a little twang to it or something. That I've been a black coffee drinker all my life, so I guess I'm just not used to flavor. Sunny and 60 in Colorado. Well, that's not bad. I don't know if there's going to be anybody here. Finally sunny. Uh-oh. Do you guys by any chance have a greenhouse or anything, Diana? My buddy Mark, who lives, in Wyoming, who may or may not be here this morning, just put up a greenhouse so they could grow for the same reasons, but so they could grow things out there that they can't usually get. They're going to try anyway. But so far, they're having some success with it, so hopefully it'll keep going. It's not huge, but it's big enough for them to grow some tomatoes. And he said they'd been gone for a week or so, and they came home to. Oh, okay, Diana. I came home to, his is only 8 feet by 8 feet. I mean, that still may be too small, but it's not a big one. And but anyway, they've got tomatoes growing. He said they're better than knee high, and they were eating lettuce. When I talked to him Thursday, they were eating lettuce out of their greenhouse. They started stuff in the house though. They started their plants from seeds. I think everything so far. Although I don't know about potatoes. I've only ever planted potatoes by, cutting up potatoes, seed potatoes, we used to call them. They had as we called them, the eye in it, and that's where they sprout out. If you leave them sitting in your bin or your floor too long in your kitchen, you'll do the same thing. But we used to cut them up, and you had to put an eye in each cut, and then we'd put a couple of different chunks in each hole and go along and heal them up, Hill, and then wait for the glorious goodness late in summer. We usually grew red potatoes for early, and our reds were, yay big around or so. And those were really, they planted those to correspond to when the first green beans would start coming in. So we'd pick fresh green beans, and we would have green beans and fresh red potatoes cooked together. And oh my God, what a treat. I love that. There's nothing better. I still like potatoes and green beans, but when they were fresh out of the garden like that, oh, wow, they were good. Anybody know anybody that's in Florida today? I just wonder if they're getting absolutely drowned. And it's supposed to be raining pretty good down there, at least in South Florida. I'm not sure about Orlando and the Disney area. Hey, there he is. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning.
I was just bragging about your greenhouse like it was mine or something.
My wife's got it looking like a jungle out there.
It's a jungle out there.
We got ripe strawberries and all kind of cool things.
Wow. I was just telling them that you told me the other day you were having lettuce on a sandwich that you grew, and you had tomatoes that were knee high. And what else did I remember you said you had? I forgot about the strawberries.
Onions and taters and all them various things. We got raspberry plants started out there, and yeah, it's a game changer for us for sure.
Diana was just saying she had to cover up her plants last night.
And we would too. We would have lost everything we had when we were down south this last week. It snowed here quite a little bit, so
wow.
But
it's still winter. You guys hadn't hit spring yet, so
yeah, they tell us it's summertime, and it was yesterday, but today it's a little cloudy.
That's just a trick.
Yeah,
it's not real. Don't get too excited. Good morning, Brenda. And yes, Diane, everything tastes better out of the garden. It's hard work to get it, but it sure does taste good. My mom used to can a lot of green beans. Mark does canning. Brenda and I never did canning. I'm not sure why. We both, maybe I avoided it too much when I was a kid. It looked like a lot of work. Especially when my mom and her best friend were canning, 300 quarts of green beans in a season so they could have them all winter and give them out to people.
Holy buckets, John. 5 inches of rain.
Well, already. It's not finished yet. Yeah, I thought Boca and Miami and that area, the bottom section, was really going to get it. I think it's going to hit up around Orlando too. So I'm sure if we have any friends in Disney, I'm sure they're going to get wet today too. That little storm, I guess they did name it Alex, so I guess it's officially the first tropical storm of the year now on the Atlantic side. Our hurricane season, I guess, starts.
Well, didn't we have one hit North Carolina already?
I don't think that. I don't know if that was. I don't know if it made. We've had some weather come in off the coast. That's true. I don't know if it reached tropical storm speeds and capacity or not. They've had some big weather. John and company have had a couple of nor'easters in up there already this year, and stuff that came up from this direction. I think. John, correct me if I'm wrong.
We spent
I like that cup. Is that your new black rifle cup?
What, with the rooster on it?
With the rooster on it.
Yeah, we spent last week in 109-degree temperatures and 70, 80 mile an hour winds and sandstorms, and it was awful down there.
Yeah, tell them about your haboo.
Yeah, it was 94 miles of no sight, nothing but ground.
If you guys have ever seen the movie
Driving through.
Hidalgo, you know what a haboo is. In the Middle East, they call that a sandstorm, or that's what they call a sandstorm. And Mark got in a real one the other day while they were traveling. I guess it was pretty touch and go there for a bit, huh?
We had thousands of tumbleweed parts plastered onto the car.
I bet.
It was quite the deal.
Were you going head into that, or was it quartering, or how was it hitting you?
It was cutting across our bow from the kind of the south to the north, and we were headed southwest, and it was kind of hitting me in the front quarter panel. And
Gotcha.
And yeah, and we got some pretty good video of it, and the kids were videoing from the back seat, and there were doves flying in it and all and they were flying against it and doing okay. But
they were actually moving. I was sitting there thinking maybe they were just hovering.
no, they were moving on. But it was. I'm sure they were just trying to get the heck out of it.
Yeah, I wonder how high that goes. It probably varies, but
I don't know the air quality down there. You never know if it's so close to Mexico that the air quality is pretty poor all the time. Visibility kind of suffers, and it's right there across from Juarez, and their air quality is really bad in that city. And anyway, it was hard to tell if it was fires because the whole state's on fire right now, it seems like, and or if it was sand or just pollution from Juarez. But
probably a mix, I would imagine. That probably all added to the lack of visibility in the storm.
Yeah, kind of gross.
Well, yeah, that too. Well, Miss Chloe, good morning. Teddy says hi, although you guys have already seen each other today, so that doesn't count. And there may not be any other cats in the room. I know there's none at Mark's house, unless it's a wild cat.
Well, we got lots of dogs. We got extra dogs. There's plenty of dogs here.
Oh, you dog sitting?
Yeah, we're all going down to Salt Lake to watch a Bees game tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
And but the kids are going down tonight, and they dumped their dogs off with me and let me watch their dogs for them. So,
well, that's nice of them.
It is.
So, what are you going to do with them tomorrow when you go down?
I'll just leave them in the house for the day.
Can they go through the dog door, or you lock it up?
No, I lock it up when we're gone for a little while. They'll get to wandering occasionally, so go on a walkabout.
Yeah, I imagine they do.
If I'm home, they all just kind of hang about. But if I leave for very long, they'll get ideas.
Sound like you as a kid.
Yeah.
I mean,
wandering
makes me think of Pat McManus and his bunch when he was a kid. They got all kinds of ideas. Some of them turned their eyebrows off. Poof, no eyebrows.
It caused their father to fall in a pit with a skunk.
Yeah. I forgot about that one. Was that Camping with Goomba? Is that out of that book, you remember? That's where they all went camping with his grandma.
It's from like one of his first books, and it's the chapter's called The Skunk Trap, but I
Oh, okay.
don't
I've got it
remember. I think it's in like A Fine and Pleasant Misery, or
well, it could be.
one of those earlier ones.
Brenda suspects that Boudreaux might get his party on if he had free reign.
He's pretty good about sticking around, which surprises me. It's my bird dog that tends to she's gone missing for days.
Wow.
So yeah, gotta kind of watch her. And if she's got accomplices, then it gets worse.
Well, because when you got more than one kid in the group, somebody's always daring somebody to go a little bit further
and thinking of more ideas.
Not that we ever would have done something like that. I was talking to my doctor last week. Speaking of squirrel, this can count as a squirrel. Nobody's in here counting, I guess. I talked to my doctor last week. I think that was who I was talking. Yeah. This is what started the conversation. She dives. She scuba dives in the ocean and goes on vacation and, takes pictures of the coral reef and that kind of stuff. Well, she's got 3 boys, and one of them was a freshman in college this year. He went to a college which shall remain nameless, and then so they wanted to get certified too, so they could go, on some of these adventures. So I guess her oldest son and her middle son got checked out, and the youngest one wasn't sure he wanted to do that. He's not real keen on swimming in the ocean, period, much less under where there's sharks. And if you trap a skunk, how do you release it or approach the trap without getting sprayed?
Very carefully.
Yeah, very carefully. You can sometimes. Mark has a lot of experience with that.
I've turned a lot of them loose. It's a crapshoot every time.
Yeah, it is. And if they're,
and sometimes you get a little on you, and you don't know it.
Well, yeah,
because you already smell it overwhelms the senses, and you get a little on you, and you go into like a building or something, and people are like,
yeah, because you walk up on one.
I walked all the way to a game and fish office smelling like a skunk one day, and people were running from me. I didn't know I had it on me.
No, you couldn't tell.
Nope.
No, it doesn't, and that's a more wives' tale that's not true. I've tried it.
We use the dogs get sprayed every now and again, and we use hydrogen peroxide and baking soda, and that works like a charm.
Yeah, do you put soap in it too, or just straight like that?
That we've never put anything but those 2 ingredients, and it's all it takes, and it cleans them right up. And I mean, we've had some of them that were, I thought maybe they caught the skunk and rolled in him, and they were so bad. And
they love to roll them. If they find a dead one, they'll flat one like in the road. They'll just roll all over that. I never have totally figured that out, but dogs absolutely love to roll on cow manure and dead skunks.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a victory dance because it's dead somehow or what. We lived on a farm down in Middle Tennessee. I don't know if you ever came there. We lived in a trailer, and for a couple of years when Jen was born there, or not born there, but while we were there. But that farm is absolutely covered up with skunks. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. The landowner, when we moved in there, he told us that they were all over the place. And we had an Australian Shepherd then, and he said he's probably going to get sprayed. Well, we had that in a little dog, and Pepper. And he said, you're probably going to get sprayed. And I said, well, I guess we'll find out. Well, they did, of course. And Jasper, the shepherd, he would run up to one. He got to where he would run up to a skunk and grab it by the neck and just wring it out and throw it down and go get another one. And I saw him do it a couple times. And the funny thing about that was he could go. I swear this is the truth. Or I could have been used to the
That's
smell.
why it's better to have cats.
Huh?
Oh, your wife said that's why it's best to have cats.
Well, they don't do that. I give them credit for that. Teddy.
But they have their own unique blend of odor that.
Well, yes, they do. But anyway, he would go out in the field a day or two later. He'd be out running around the farm there, and he'd come back, and I swear the smell was all but gone. I don't know what he rolled in. If it was just grass or cow manure or something, helped neutralize him. So he got where it wasn't real bad. Now the little dog, she got sprayed 2 or 3 times, and we tried the tomato juice thing on her first, and that was before I knew about the hydrogen peroxide thing. But Ian said baking soda works down a stinky drain, so that makes sense. Yeah, well, it does. I think it's a combination of that and the oxy. I don't know how to put this, but when hydrogen peroxide bubbles up, I think it blends. I think there's actually a molecular connection there, and that it's kind of like an oxidizer in your wash. The oxy. Not Codone, the OxyClean or whatever you can pour in your clothes. I think it's kind of the same thing. I think it actually has an oxidation will work in. That's close enough. That's probably it. But anyway, I think it has something to do with it. The two of them together work like a champ. That's all I know.
It foams up and you can get it. It just it cleans them quick too.
Yeah. Highly recommend that.
Mix it in water and coat it on them and then rinse them off in a little while. And
good morning, the Hitchhiking Bones. Hi, Don. How are you? I keep missing your own show lately. I apologize for that. I've been meaning to get back in there. Yeah, Don, detergent with the paste with that is good. I'm not some of that mixed up to put on my shirts because I stain my shirts regularly. I should wear a bib. I was just listening to a story this morning, and Sheriff Bo Tully, who's a character, Pat McManus' character, was taking a young woman or a woman to lunch. She's supposed to be. Everybody in town thinks she's a witch or a fortune teller, and so but he thinks she's just attractive, and she was dressed up, I guess. So they went in the only good place to eat in town, which was called Crabs, and they went in there, and he said the only thing you only eat certain things in there though, and he eats beef tips and something else, or beef dip or something like that, and she thought that sounded good, but it'd probably get all over her clothes. And so he ordered for her. And he just went ahead and ordered 2 orders of beef dips and something else. And the waiter walked away and she said, Bo, I told you that would get all over my clothes. And he laughed because the next thing was the cook came out and put a full-length bib on both of them. And he said, see, you don't have to worry about it getting on your clothes here in Blight City. We've got a method for that. He said, don't you wear bibs back where you're from? I learned another one. I wrote this one down in my book, a book of notes and things to remember. They were talking about church. I don't remember. They'd found some bodies. I guess that's what it was. They'd found some bodies from some guys that had been missing for 80 years, so they were burying the bones on his property and trying to be kind of reverent, I guess. And one of them was saying something about saying some words over the grave. Anyway, it came up that this guy said, "Well, it was kind of sketchy. He was kind of sketchy anyway. He said, "Well, I remember going to church once, and Pap, his old man, who's always coming up with something, Bo's old man." And he said, "I guess that didn't take then, did it, boy?" And Pap said, "I've been to church too." He said, "But I don't go anymore." He said, "I fear if you get that close to God, he's just liable to snatch you right up." Snatch you right up. Anyhow, I'm gonna let me wait. I hadn't heard from Carol. I bet you know what? Let me check. She might have sent me a note. She usually lets me know she's going to be out of town. Oh, I just saw a big garden there in a picture.
Hey, pal.
Uh-oh. The only thing out there is everybody's talking about a glitch. Have you not noticed that yet? Apparently on Instagram you can't send photos. Anyway, let me get back to the show here. When Mark comes back, Hakuna Matata to you, Don. Brenda did make me a bib. That's absolutely right. She did make a bib. She got tired of trying to ruining my clothes. My mom has my dad wear bibs for the last decade of his life, and he'd still make a mess on a shirt. Well, and it still pop. Trust me, when you're a good shirt ruiner, it just you can outwit many a bib and other device. I've done it. The old trick of putting your bib in your neck, your collar, and letting it cover your shirt don't always work either. So let me see if I missed anybody else. I don't think I have. Nope, not that I see. All right. Oh, there's Tina. Oh, laundry detergent. I use Earth Breeze, which is thin way for detergent. OxyClean and Dawn are greasy stains. But I never wear white if I'm going to be eating. Well, I've learned that the hard way, Tina. Although you can bleach white, most of my, if it's a color item, it's hard to bleach. You need to go back up, Tina. Your hounds ever get sprayed by a skunk? Maybe you've been in or maybe that's why you're asking, what about your clothes? I didn't see that one. I did miss something. I know everybody's shocked by that. I don't have a finder's gene. It probably applies to this kind of thing too. Do you know what that is?
Finder gene?
The finder's gene.
Is that where you're good at finding antlers and arrowheads and whatnot?
Well, could be. Some men. Well, it really applies to when you're.
Oh, or in the house when the wife says it's right there, and you say, I can't see it.
Yeah, well, when you go looking and can't find that pair of socks, your favorite pair of socks anywhere, and she walks in and pulls it out the top of your sock drawer. We had a secretary at TVA that said men don't have the finder's gene. Surf Bum says, I went to Rutgers University Marine Biology School. They are thinking sand shark jaw. Oh, yeah, okay. Pic I sent you. Oh, okay, I got you. I see what you mean. You took that over and let them look at it. You know what? I forgot to research that, John. I apologize. But that's the way I was headed, too. Well, did they give you any opinion on maybe age or size or anything like that? They can do a lot with things like teeth and jaws, usually. Tina says, nope, we have them, but I try really hard to keep the dogs close and the skunks out of their reach. That's a good idea, Tina, but if you did hear that, it's hydrogen peroxide and baking soda. No more plastic. Oh, they're talking washing detergent. I'll back out. Not being a cleaning expert, I'll back out of that conversation. There are a few things I prefer not to.
That's a squirrel that we have no experience with
No,
whatsoever.
I'm not going to chase that one. They're thinking small shark about 50 or
It's
60
just not
pounds.
even interesting.
No, not to me. It's not. No. I'd like to let on like I've never even done that kind of thing, but that's not true. That doesn't mean I know anything about it, though. I'm one of those throw everything in the wash machine, put detergent in it, and
All together now.
all together now. Yeah, exactly.
We used to go to that old laundromat in Arkansas. The old gal run the place had that cigarette in her mouth, bobbing with the ash. It was about 2 inches long, and she was, every time I hear somebody talk about your mother, like, you're redneck if your mama can, if the cigarette doesn't drop out of her mouth when she tells the highway patrolman to kiss her ass. That was that gal that ran that laundromat there.
I've never heard that one. I
all,
might have to write that down too.
all shriveled up, and that big old cigarette just
Just
bouncing.
bobbing. Yeah. I've seen her a couple of times. I'll tell you one of the funniest things I ever saw, and Brenda's got a comment there that she's trying to say that I can find my way around navigating and where things are, but I can't find my phone or my glasses when I just set them down somewhere. And she's right. Phil and I were going up to see an airplane one time up in Middlesboro, Kentucky. It was an old World War II plane. It was one of the planes they had dug up out of the ice up in Greenland, and they were rebuilding it up there. And so we wanted to go up and see if they were having an open house. So we went up to see how they were coming along with it and just look at it. It was a P-38 Lightning, Lockheed P-38 Lightning from the war. They had crash landed it. They'd landed several of them on Greenland because they ran out of fuel. They had weather and they couldn't land. So anyway, they brought this one in, and we went up there. And on the way up there, we took a lot of back roads up through the mountains above La Follette and the Cumberland area, and going up on that, crossing the mountains over into Kentucky, and just like something out of a classic cartoon or a Ma and Paul Kettle movie or something. This here we're going around the curve, and we come up on this intersection. Now we had the right of way, no stop signs, but there was a stop sign on that road, and up pulls a woman riding an ATV in a pink house coat, bunny slippers, her hair in curlers, and a cigarette hanging out of her mouth. It wasn't a classic hillbilly. We both about fell off our motorcycles. We just hooted because I said, man, that don't get no more hillbilly than that right there. That's a wow. I mean, you couldn't even. I wish I'd had a camera back then to take pictures or something like that, because on the roll, because that was it's so good. No doubt she had to run down the store for a gallon of milk or something, or another pack of cigs. What does Ian think? Coworkers don't know I'm trying to listen to good old boys telling stories. Oh, they won't leave you alone, Ian. Tell them I said so. And Tina is saying the women are ganging up on us. We almost got a divorce many years ago because he got mad at me because he couldn't find his keys. Well, that's nothing to get mad and divorce you over. I mean, I just accept it. Sometimes I don't even look. I just tell Brenda to go find it. Of course, that could be mistaken for laziness, but it's really not. It's just defeatist. I mean, it's just realizing that I can't find anything in the house, so I just let her do it. Okay, what I was going to say was, I put together a few pictures off the internet. You tell them the Tennessee bear says go away and growled real loud at you when I said it and bared my teeth a little bit.
Come on, bud. Go lay down. Go do something useful.
And you can't argue with a bear. And so anyway, Mark has been on a big sojourn. He mentioned there he'd been down southwest, and it was pretty cool trip. Sounds like. So
bad timing, though. Bad
yeah,
weather.
yeah. That's true.
It's not usually this hot this early down there.
Right.
But boy, howdy, was it hot.
Tennessee bear, somehow it was my fault. Turns out they were in his pants pocket. Well, that is one place we never seem to look. Or we poke our hand down in the wrong pocket. Because that's a problem. When if you carry a pocket knife, every man that carries a pocket knife usually carries it in one pocket, and it's the same pocket all the time.
For his entire life.
Unless it changes over like to a knife with a clip, and that might change the habit, but because he might want to put that one, where it's different. But I've carried knives in my left pocket knives, most of my life, and I've got jeans and things that I probably still have, and I can show you where they're worn out there, where you can see both ends of the knife, stick where it's worn through my jeans. And when it gets so bad I lose the knife, then I get upset. But yeah, that's just how it is. So if for some reason you happen to stick your pocket knife in the wrong pocket, God forbid you would have to do that. But if you did, then you're not ever going to find it because you're not going to look in the wrong pocket. It goes in that pocket. You always put it in that pocket. Until your wife does your laundry and she said, well, it was in your back pocket, and the answer to that is, well, how the hell did it get there? You must have done that. Anyway, so I'm sure she won't find that nearly so funny. Ian has been to Gilpin in New Mexico a couple of times, but hot even in the spring and fall. Where is that at? I don't know where that's at. I hate to say. What part of the state?
I don't either. Gilpin.
What part of the state, Ian? I hate to say I don't know. I mean, I've been there several times now.
I thought I had been to every town in New Mexico.
Well, I'm thinking I ain't been to that one, though. Tina, but we just sort of halfway look. I mean, we know it's not there. Why would we spend time looking in those other pockets? You might tell us to, but husbands are not the best listeners. I mean, that's a fault I'll have to admit to, but we know where we put our pocket knife.
On the Navajo Res.
Oh, okay.
I just was there 2 days ago.
Yeah, you drove through there.
Why didn't I see Gilpin? Well, we went across the Jicarilla Res and then went up through the Navajo Res.
Maybe it's on the other side.
Up to Shiprock and up and out to Cortez, Colorado.
You saw Shiprock?
Yeah, Shiprock.
You went by it?
I got buddies down there that live not too far from Shiprock, and they're
cool.
One of them's last name is Begay, which is like Jones, and he's got that accent, that clipped accent. Shiprock.
Okay.
He really emphasizes the K.
So is that a common name amongst the Navajo? I mean, we know a couple of Begays.
Begay?
Well, I mean, that
yeah, very common, very common.
Ian has friends that used to go to Shiprock all the time.
Yeah.
Yes, Diane, I will admit it.
Place.
I mean, I might not admit it in the heat of the moment when when I'm being told to listen, but I will admit it here, which I guess means now it's out, so I can't deny it anymore. Yeah, it's over by Arizona. Okay, it's on that side of the res. Well, anyway, Mark's been down there recently, and he went to see a place I've been a long time ago. So I'm going to pull up some slides, but I want him to kind of tell about some of this. And I think I'm going to do this right first time this time. Drum roll.
Getting ready to chase winged squirrels.
Winged mammals.
Winged squirrels.
That's true, Ian. Good point. Ian's got a really good point, Tina. I can always deny remembering that I said it. Well, many. All right, wait a minute. I got to read this. Now having been married many more years, when I tell him to look in all of his pockets, he looks in all his pockets. But he still canceled the credit card.
that was in his wallet.
Well, we're not perfect, Tina. We're damn close, but we're not perfect. Turns out it falls.
Whatever.
Well, see, that happens. We're out doing stuff. We take our mud boots off somewhere, probably where we're not supposed to. And our wallet falls in there, but that we shouldn't have to be responsible for that, because again, it's not in the pocket. If it's not where it belongs, we must not have done it.
A friend of mine in Colorado got a ticket duck hunting because he didn't have his license with him, and it was in the bottom of his hip waders.
That's not funny, but it is.
It had fallen down, and the warden wrote him a citation or a warning, and was leaving, and John found his license in the bottom of his boot, and he took off chasing the game warden to catch him to see if he could get the ticket voided. I just envision him in sock feet running through a marsh with his license waving in the air.
Really?
I got it.
Let's see here. I'm missing some more conversation. Ian says, Tina, we got to keep you ladies entertained somehow. That's a good point too, Ian.
Yeah.
Because when we don't do that, they complain. So, no, my mud boots were by the door because mud. Were his? Or did you say they were in your mud boots? Oh, it's in your mud boots. Oh, I see. I'd like to know what elf and creature probably put. Did he ask if you saw any elves or anything in the house? Because I'm sure something carried that wallet over there. There are mischievous elves that live in people's houses that do things like that. I'm a firm believer in that.
Yeah, the old elf on the shelf isn't always a benevolent spirit.
No, he's not. He's not the only one, I don't think. Pretty sure he's not the only one. And I'm not sure Tina's buying that entertainment idea. So anyway, Carlsbad, in case you don't know, is way down here. Wait a minute. I think I got a bigger picture. Hang on. All right, there it is. Southeastern New Mexico, just not too far up from the Texas Panhandle border. Right. I guess that's the Panhandle, isn't it?
Well, the Panhandle's the top part, but
okay, right.
That's the Trans-Pecos.
The Trans-Pecos area, and I thought this map when I pulled it up had states marked on it, but it doesn't. But you get the idea. That's in New Mexico. Trust me, I've been there. And Mark's daughter lives down that not far from there. She lives in El Paso, and you picked her and
And her squeeze up, we went to
Jesse, yeah, I couldn't think of his name.
wander about in the desert stuff.
Enan says his wife doesn't buy it either. Yeah, it's okay until they stop. Well, they probably don't buy it ever, but I think early in marriages they kind of put up with it and laugh at us, and it's funny. But by the time you've been married as long as I have, they don't.
It ain't funny no more.
Well, yeah, and they don't pretend to enjoy it or accept it. They just tell it like it is, just like Tina. 40-something years, they Brenda thinks she knows all my tricks. And sad thing is, I probably don't know all of hers because I keep doing the same things. Hey, Carol, good morning. I was hoping you could make it in. Are you in the car or are you at home? Or Teddy, you want to wake up and say hi to Miss Carol? He actually got down out of his chair, his sleeping chair. Good morning, Dave. And actually got down out of his sleeping chair to try to chase a bird at the door here, the sliding glass door. And I was proud of him. He doesn't usually make that much effort.
A sleeping chair.
Well, that's what he does. He sits right here beside me and sleeps in it. When I'm over here, if I go sit on the couch, he comes over there. Unless he gets bored with me, and then he comes back over here to his sleeping chair. I mean, it's got a sleeping pillow in it and everything. He's my bud. I can't say much. If he was a dog, he'd be a damn good one.
What does that mean? But since he's a cat, he's not.
No, I just mean if he was a dog, he'd be a
darn good one.
He's a damn good cat. So if he was a dog, he'd be a damn good dog, I'm sure. I mean, it'd be kind of fun if I could take him out and walk him around a little bit, but he don't even want to go out. Chasing the bird at the glass door is one thing. Actually going out there and, trying to tussle with it's probably a whole nother animal. We had swim practice and I'm home now. Well, good, Carol. I'm going to show some slides. Mark's been on a walkabout and he's been to Carlsbad Caverns for one place. So I've got some pictures of that I was going to show. And a few of them he might want to talk about. Some of them he probably don't. But okay, Tim, you have a new flag today. Which one, Tina? Do I? Oh, you're probably seeing the edge. Maybe you're seeing my Welsh flag. I just got it pulled part way. I see I've got a big gap back there. I don't think I've got any. I've got I think you've seen my Ukrainian, I have a Ukrainian flag on this end right now. And on that end, I have a Welsh flag, and then the U.S. flag, and then the Tennessee flags right here. I was going to mix them up this morning, but I didn't. I was wanting to finish up some other stuff, so I didn't really have time. Well, there's a whole funny conversation going on over here. And the doghouse must have worn it. Brenda, that's not nice. Be kind to my friends here. That doghouse must have a worn look by now, Ian. He lives in Colorado. I bet that doghouse gets damn cold sometimes. Oh, the Tennessee flag. No, well, it's not always there, Tina. I move them around sometimes. I've had that one for a little while. You may not have seen it. But anyway, Mark, one of the places Mark went was Carlsbad, New Mexico. And he went to Carlsbad Caverns. And that's the entrance sign, or it was. I hope it still is because I put it up there.
It still is.
And it's, of course, a national park now. It's one of those underground national parks. It's not, well, I guess the top of the ground is national park too, but it's kind of like owning mineral rights. If you men are listening, you can usually hear our eyes rolling in the back of our head. Oh yes, if you've never heard your wife's eyes roll, you ain't been married long enough. I can't hear her holler for me when she needs me, but I can hear that clunk. That's when she gives me the look. Ian has a 19-year-old daughter. You can hear them setting him settling in back there. They learn that early, Ian. It may not be born in, but it's close. And this is the amphitheater seating area, and Mark has been there recently. I don't know how old these pictures are.
I was sitting on the
top left over here, weren't you?
The north end of that at the top. Yeah, on the left side of the photo. And that's a big old deep hole. If you've never been there, it's got a winding pathway that they've got paved that goes down.
I got a picture of that.
Deep underground.
Yeah, I've got a picture of that. They call that the road to hell. I looked that up.
They do call it the road to hell, and it's a nasty walk up out of there.
Well, tell them a little bit about what was going on here in this area. This is where and what this is for, in case you don't know, is Carlsbad, like many other huge, and this is a huge cavern, has a large population of bats, at least seasonally. I don't know if these are there year round, probably not, but they have a lot of bats, and at night they all come out of this opening right here. And go ahead.
Yeah, they got 17 species of bats, but one of them is the main player. The either Brazilian or Mexican free-tailed bats, depending on where. Some of these bats winter in Brazil, and some of them winter in Mexico. And depending on where they winter, that's kind of how they designate the species. They're the exact same critter.
And I've got some pictures of those here in a minute.
These are considered Brazilian free-tailed bats because they all winter in Brazil. This bunch of bats winters in Brazil, but on a dry year like this year, they'll have as few as 500,000 in the cave here, and on a good year they'll have up to 4.5 million free-tailed bats in this cave. But they figure there's about 1 million bats there this year, and it's quite the spectacle to watch them come out. They kind of swirl around in that cave opening there, kind of like kettling, circling, then they pop up above that ridge and they head southeast for a river that's about 70 miles away to go feed for the night. They do it every night after night after night.
That's one thing a lot of people don't know or realize is a lot of bats feed over water because they're looking for insects that are in or around or come out of the water, like mosquitoes, for example. And they fly up and down the waterways, and they'll dip down and get water too. I've seen them dip down right to the water and pop right up, just hit it and go. And they'll do that in the woods over creeks or big rain ponds or what, buddy? You want to get up? Come up here and listen to Uncle Mark talk about bats for a minute.
Well, I don't know how much more I have to say.
Well, I've got to tell about the great horned owl.
So if you look on there's a number of predators that eat these bats, that hunt these bats. I mean, they're a huge food source available there to things that eat small mammals, if you can catch it. And they've got red-tailed hawks and prairie falcons, and they've got snakes that literally hang on that face, that rock face over there that just snatch bats out of the air. And then they've got ring-tailed cats, which are like a southwestern skinny version of a raccoon that live on that rock face that catch bats. And then for the last week or so, they've had a horned, and I'm sure they do all the time, but they've had a horned owl that's been very visible, and he or she has been hunting those bats, and when we were sitting there, we could hear it calling occasionally over to the kind of the right side of that photo. There's a little ridge over there, and it was sitting somewhere over there. And right just before it got too dark to see, it came flying in, and it landed on the ridge, kind of in the upper left part of that photo, and then it popped over that ridge, came flying straight towards the amphitheater, and grabbed a bat and flew up to that. There's two dark green shrubs on the north end of that, or on the left side of that photo, and it landed in that first one and sat there and ate that bat, which was kind of cool to watch. So if you're a wildlife guy, that's kind of cool to watch.
Do you reckon they?
And it just grabbed that thing. It just turned over on its back basically and grabbed that bat snatched it right out of the air. Which is pretty amazing because those bats are fast. They're actually, if not one of the fastest bats in the world, and they fly upwards of 99 miles an hour. So it's pretty impressive because a horned owl certainly doesn't fly 99 miles an hour. But
no, it's like knows where to hunt.
well, and they're silent in flight. So
yeah,
owls are. So it came in there and it had one. And there were so many of them in the air. I don't know if they could have avoided it anyway, but pretty cool to watch.
You think they eat more? You think they would eat more than one a night?
I don't know. It sat there. It ate that. And of course, they got to digest it and make a pellet and do that whole thing that owls go through. And I suspect maybe one or two, but not many more than that.
That's what I was kind of thinking too. In case you don't know, another cool thing about bats, if you're a wildlife guy anyway, is or naturalist, outdoorsy type, is owls eat mammals, mostly small rodents or flying bats, flying mammals, that sort of thing, and voles and mice and whatnot. And but bats can't digest the bones. They grind up or digest the meat.
You mean owls?
Owls. What did I say?
Bats.
No, owls. Excuse me. So they eat a bat, and their stomach and system. Do they have a crop? I don't know.
No.
I didn't think so. That would
they swallow it down, and then they get all the meat basically off of it through digestion, and then they spit it back out.
Yeah, and it don't go through the system the rest of the way. They don't poop it out. They throw it up basically, and they come out
and bones.
Do what?
All the fur and bones.
And they come out in a sort of an oblong wad of fur and bones, and if you find an owl's nest or a place where they eat all the time, and they will tend to roost and eat in the same places a lot, at the base of that or I used to find them all the time in the wood duck boxes. Screech owls love wood duck boxes to roost in, and they would go in there and they would hack up their bones, their pellets, and I could find them in there, and they'll be just, if you pick one up, it'll be dry or when you find it. And yeah, Carol, they are. They're full of neat stuff. I mean, they're full of little tiny bones, and if you can take them under a microscope or something, kids love them. I mean,
I'm giving them to school kids. Whole skulls.
Yeah, there'll be a whole skull in there of a teeny tiny mouse or a shrew. I found shrew parts in them. if you could put them together, the whole critter's probably there, or nearly the whole critter, and they're just really interesting. All the teeth will be in place, and actually the bones are pretty clean at that point. They may not be able to digest bones and hair, but they can sure clean the meat off the bones. There's not anything left on the bones when you get them. And like I say, if they're in there, if they're in the pellet for a few days or in the sun or whatever, they dry out and they're perfect specimens to study. Ian said they dissected owl scat in 8th grade. So, well, it's not really scat, Ian. They throw it. Well, it's vomit. I guess they used to say spore. I don't know which is sign, basically scat and whatnot. I don't know. If it might be, but it's not technically scat. Being a biologist, you also have to take classes in scatology. So most of us have handled our fair of some kind of turd. Just to put it bluntly, I can't polish that too much. Anyway, I've got a couple more pictures here. Let me move on. And there's that opening, and you can see the beginning of that path. And I say beginning because that goes way down there. And I have a picture of that in a moment. But that's the view down into the mouth. That's where the bats come out of. And then they start kettling up, which is a term. A lot of birds actually kettle. You can see them sometimes gathering when they're migrating. Well, larger birds anyway, hawks and such. And I guess vultures too. And they'll kettle. They'll kind of gather up and they're just spinning. Usually what they're doing is they're riding the thermal up as high as they can go, and then they'll shoot off down south or wherever they're headed. And we used to go count them down on a place called Lookout Point or Lookout Tower in the Smokies, and you could see them up there. They'd get up and then they'd just all shoot towards the south when they're starting to migrate further down from this area. It was really cool to watch. And was Amber there? Oh, too soon. I don't know that joke, but I'm sure, or story, but I'm sure it'd be good. Can't remember the Marco Polos. Yeah, I told them about the Marco Polos, I think. So that owl, what they're really doing, we can't hear them because they're, it's echolocation and stuff. The owl's up there, and he yells as he flies into that crowd. He'll yell Polo, or Marco, and the one that answers Polo, he goes right to that one and grabs it. So it's not good. It's not always good to answer. So anyway, that's the hole in the beginning of the cave. And well, this is not the one I meant next, but here you can see some of that going on. It's not super thick right there, but you can see the bats coming out and in, and they're starting to gather up above and just stream off towards that river. And this is why their seats are there. I mean, this isn't a good example of how many and how thick it gets. And I thought this was a pretty good picture. You can't see as much, but that opening that you're seeing there is almost completely blocked with bats. And that's fascinating to me. That's just, and I guess I'm going to assume this picture from the looks of it is probably just as they're starting to come out, or at least the main part.
They pop out of that smaller hole and then they start swirling around right there, and then they're off and gone. And they've got a day shift critter that hangs out and does basically the same type of function. We got cave swallows that live there, and they're trying to get in the cave to roost when the bats are leaving the cave. And there's so many bats coming out. The swallows literally, well, they were landing on the rock wall right behind my head and just complaining to no end that they couldn't get down in that hole. They kept trying to go in, and there were just too many bats coming out for them to make it.
As long as they've been doing that, maybe the bats haven't been there, or maybe the birds haven't been there long enough to
Well, they didn't document them until like 66.
Yeah, that's what I read. And so you'd think by now they could have figured out a little evolution to, pick a little different time in or out so they could both work that system. Anyway, that's the bats coming out, and you can see the people in the amphitheater. I've got a couple more pictures. I lost my cursor.
It's a spectacle that everybody should see. It was pretty cool.
There's a little bit more of an idea what's coming out. That was supposed to be Carlsbad. I wasn't sure about the vegetation there, so I'm not sure if it is, but it said it was. But
yeah, there's plenty. There's plenty of veg there.
So you can see them coming out.
Little small oak trees and all kinds of veg
right
around the. Yeah, it's definitely that looks like it, and they are. I mean, they're flying within inches of your face. It's pretty cool. They made sure, there's the big worry about rabies with bats, and that's overhyped, and yeah, they're mammals, and yes, they have rabies. They can get rabies. They're not like the plague that we always thought. But the one thing you like, when you're sitting under that wall of bats coming out of there, you need to keep your mouth closed when you're looking up, because they're defecating and urinating the whole time.
Good morning, Rhonda. Oh, is it your birthday? Well, happy birthday, Rhonda. I would sing happy birthday to you like Monarch Moments or somebody, but I cannot sing a lick, so I'm going to save all of us that pain. Congress Avenue Bridge in Austin, Texas is it's the largest urban bat colony in North America, between 700. That's cool. I think I've seen that too, Dawn, and you're absolutely right. I mean, there are different bats that hang out in places just like that, and that's cool that you can see them there, and it's great in my opinion that they haven't made a huge effort or something to get rid of them. And at one time they would have done that.
They have, or they tried to, and the agricultural community shut them down.
Well, that's good.
So there was plans at one time to destroy Bracken Cave, which is down there south of Austin.
Right.
And it's probably the largest gathering of mammals on the planet Earth. And there was some developer that wanted that country, and people were worried about bats, and the Texas ag community come in and put the stop to that, which was wonderful. Because they realized what those bats do for them and for us as a species.
They
eat a lot of insects.
They do. And did that guy give you numbers on that? I can't remember if he told you pounds or something, or if I read that somewhere.
Tons. They eat tons of insects every night.
It's amazing, and some of them, mistakenly, some of these guys I guess don't, but some of them, in one way or another, also help pollinate some things. These guys aren't known for that, but we talked about that a couple of weeks ago.
Well, there's long-nosed bats that are big pollinators, but these are insectivorous. All these bats are.
Let me see if I've tried to find a good picture of them, coming out of the cavern, and I don't think I couldn't find one much better than that, which surprised me. I'm sure if I kept looking, I would eventually find one like you were describing. It looks like a fire, smoke coming up out of there. Okay, that is supposed to be a Mexican freetail. Of course, it
is. I
would say that's greatly enlarged, but that's probably pretty close to about how big they are.
Well, their body is, the bat biologist that was doing the presentation gave dimensions, and they're about 9 inches across.
Okay, John, tell your dad we said hey, and if you get a chance, come on in. Come on back, I mean. Oh, sorry, Mark. Go ahead.
Well, I was just saying they're about 9 inches across the wingspan when they're stretched out, and their body's about 3 ounces and 5 grams. I think he said about the size of your thumb.
Little bitty. Well, they're not
Yeah,
too
I mean,
big.
if you chopped your thumb off right where it hits your hand, they're about that big. They're just little bitty guys.
They look a lot bigger when they're all spread out and flying over your head.
Yeah, well, my son and I were outside on my back porch last night, and we had the biggest bat I've ever seen personally fly right past my face. I have no idea what species it was, but it was enormous.
Wow.
It was like 12 or 14 inches across the wings. It was huge.
That sounds like some kind of fox face.
It was like I was envisioning like a big spotted bat or a hoary bat or something like that.
Maybe. That's cool. And you can see how they cluster up. That's how they that's for protection and warmth, and that shared bodily warmth and that sort of thing. And I wrote down there that, and I forgot I'd have a typo in there. Dang it.
There's a bunch of pups in that photo.
Yeah, there are.
Lots of
That's
naked.
maternity calling. What, the snake food? Did you say that? Did you say
Ah,
that?
no, I said that a lot of those heads are naked.
Yeah, okay. I
Not
thought you said snake food.
well, it is.
Pinkies almost. Yeah, it is. I know, but that's the part of being a wildlife biologist that some people don't want to hear. But I put in there Mexican freetail bats, and I meant to put or Brazilians because they are the same species. I was telling Mark when I've been out and trapping those guys, or did many years ago, we referred to them as Brazilians, and now they specify some as freetail or as Mexican, and they're the same species. It's pretty much where they roost in the winter. It is a circle of life, Tina. You're absolutely correct, and without it, all this stuff, this beauty and amazing parts of life that we see and enjoy wouldn't be there without it. And that's usually where man comes in and kind of screws it up. When we kill all the predators off, then the game animals or the prey animals overpopulate, and then they crash and die and have disease, and they just leave the circle just starts crumbling. And it's that I'll tell you honest, that I believe that circle is something mankind needs to become more attuned to. But that's just my thought. And that's one of the reasons why game and fish people and hunters, if they're really honest, play a role in that, because if they're doing it respectfully and all that kind of thing, which I think they should, but I think hunters should be that way. But that kind of game management actually has to exist, because if you didn't have it, a lot of places where they used to be controlled by predators would be out of hand. So anyway, I didn't mean to jump off. I don't know that, Tina. That could be another squirrel, but you made me think of it. So that's kind of your fault. But anyway, I put down in there that's the primary species, almost what Mark said word for word. It's primary species in the cave, but they know of at least 17 different species in the cave that use it. We understand we're a part of it, not the ringleader. Very good point, Tina. So next slide. I'm not sure what the next slide is. Oh, I thought this was a cool picture. This is an old picture, and this is one of the ways they let visitors down into the cavern. That part where we saw where the walk goes down in there, they used to lower people down in barrels.
Lovely.
I'm not sure if I'd wanted to ride a barrel down, but that ladder behind it there, I thought it was a rope ladder. It may be all wood, but it looks kind of like a rope ladder, like go up to a ship or something. But that wouldn't be any fun to climb up either, because if you've ever climbed on one of those things, they're a far cry from a real ladder.
So the guy that first
Thank you, Tina.
discovered the cave, well, he didn't discover it. I mean, people known about the cave for thousands of years, but the guy that first popularized the cave, I guess, was a cowboy from in that country somewhere, and he rode up there one day, and the bats were emerging, and he built some kind of a rickety, that might be that ladder right there, and lowered himself down in there, and he was, tied his horse up and went down in that big hole. Talk about a guy with some stones, because he wasn't with anybody.
Yeah, that's always risky.
Yeah, so he just lowered himself down in there and went to exploring, and
I don't know, Carol. I'm going to put you in charge of taking the next what do they call that in showbiz when somebody you throw something out there and it brings up a song? I can't remember what the lead in or the I'll think of it in a minute. But you listen for it, okay? What was it with barrels back then? I don't know, Rhonda. I'm not sure if this is your point, but I mean, people were going over waterfalls with them and down into caves with them and all kinds of things with them. Hey, Mike, welcome. How did Diana just let you get on the computer? We've enjoyed her company this morning. Anyway, I thought that was a neat old picture, and just what some people went to way back when to get down in that cave. And this is what I remember. Mark didn't see this part. His trip, he was just over at the cave, right?
We just wanted to go watch bats.
Yeah.
I didn't care if I went down in that big old hole or not. But
this was, well, I was telling Mark, he didn't know this, but you can go in the visitor center and you actually go down in an elevator, and this is what you step out in. What does this remind anybody of? I've got a clue here in a minute. But this is actually a visitors area. There's a cafeteria down here, and I'll show you how popular this has been at different times. But this is when I went there in 72, we went in this end and they took us down in the elevators and we did the crawl, we did the hike through the cave with the tour guides and all that, which was really cool. It's a huge cave with huge open caverns. I mean, I've been in a lot of caves, but nothing like this. And I need to go to Mammoth Cave because I'm sure it's similar. Yes, Tina, exactly. That's my point. You come out, you come out of the ride and you come into a souvenir shop.
Well, they got those. They've got 3 of those in one building up on the surface, which is probably the visitor center.
Yeah.
But it was like 3 separate souvenir shops. Giant
wow.
ones. And I'm sure it's the same building that you took an elevator.
Probably is.
I didn't even know that was an option.
Well, we went down there, and the more I've thought about it, I think we might have had lunch in there because
they have all kind of stuff downstairs that you can do down in the caverns.
This is one time. I don't know if this is still there or not, but this was at one time the lunch eating area, and I want you to look at the setup. Well, those little islands there in the walk-in areas they're kind of like Disney too. You walk in, order your food, and pick it up here. But look, I mean, this is set up for large crowds.
Yeah,
Carlsbad Cavern has been or is a huge tourist draw, which is probably good and bad. I'm sure it's helped support anything they've done there, and hopefully the conservation efforts. It's probably had impacts that we don't think about that aren't good, but anyway, and I've got a better picture of this just in a moment. I just saw something I hadn't seen right here in this picture. If you can see my cursor moving, those look like what we used to call bottle crates or Coca-Cola crates where you set the bottles in when they're done. Well, they come in when they're new that way too. And
Well,
I used to have to load those things. We used to have to put our return bottles, the deposit bottles, back in those cases and load them on my truck. Adds a little weight to the load.
well, look at the clothes these folks have on. This is like a 1960s photo.
Yeah, I've got one here. It says that. In fact, it might have been that one. No. Oh, come on, back up, not go forward. Yeah, that's in the 1960s. These photos, I've got these for that reason, because you can see it, you can tell if you at least if you're alive during any of that period, you can tell. And this is where I put that note, Tina. I said, guess what? Souvenir shops. You kind of, if you go on the walking tour, at least the one we did, you go in here, but you end up here also when you come off the paths out of the informative walk. And so it is a lot like any other theme park. You got that souvenir stand on the way out.
Well, like I said, there were 3 in the one building.
Yeah.
And yeah, I told you I had that conversation with that young ranger that he was about 25 years old, maybe, and I wanted to buy a pass from him, an annual pass for the parks. And he couldn't sell it to me. It was Memorial Day, so he couldn't sell it. He didn't have the ability, and the people that sold them weren't there because it was Memorial Day.
Honestly, they were probably locked up, and he probably didn't have a key because they're really strict about those things. I told you, we sold for a while. We sold them, and we had to go by similar rules. There were certain days if she wasn't there, we couldn't get in.
Yeah, well, he was the guy I told. He said, "Well, you can buy them here, yes, but you can't buy them here from me today." And I said, "Well, I will gladly pay you on Tuesday for a hamburger you give me today." And he looked at me like I had 3 heads. And the bat biologist was standing there, and he was my age, and he started laughing, and the kid didn't have a clue what we were laughing at. So.
Wimpy.
Which I think is hilarious.
Some of you folks, I'm sure, know who Wimpy was or is. He was on Popeye. I will gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. That's probably why I like hamburgers so much. Not a Popeye fan, Ian. Well, that's okay. When I was growing up, you didn't have a whole lot of choices.
Yeah.
Popeye was a regular fixture in the cartoon world, and we didn't have a whole lot of other stuff. Oh, he wasn't. Yeah, apparently he'd never even heard Popeye or seen a Wimpy in a cartoon.
Oh yeah, he was too young. He didn't have a clue who I was talking about. So we made him Google it.
Mike had Popeyes last night. I like Popeye's chicken. Rhonda says her dad loves to quote Popeye. Carol said she was just typing that line when I said it. Yeah, well, we know the elder statespeople. Oh, that's probably not a good word either, is it? There's wizened people in this room who've got more experience than others. Let's say that. And I threw in some pictures here. I don't know what all these are called. One or two of them I recognize, but this was pretty much how it looked when I was there in 1972. And they were really good about keeping people off of these stalagmites and stalactites and from touching them and stuff, because all that affects them. And these things are, this one right here beside these 2 people looking up, that's thousands, if not millions of years old. I mean, to make a I don't even know what to call it. I mean, to make a fixture like that, or out of drips, one drip at a time through that stone above, to form this below, can you imagine? Because the water runs off and there's just invisible parts of stone in there that we didn't even see by the eye. And over time, it builds up into such a huge stalagmite, if that's still called a stalagmite. What might do now? I thought you guys were talking about Popeye's chicken. I'm too young to know anything about Popeye. Okay, Mike. We're here for the jokes. You're supposed to just laugh. You're still on the show. The Lost Sea, yeah. Brenda and I went to see the Lost Sea one time. It was kind of like that. We didn't go down in an elevator though, did we? Or did we? No, we walked down a tunnel. Anyway, it's nothing like this. Now that the one I know what it is, and because it was identified in the pictures, is that long stalactite right there that has almost reached the ground, but not quite, or the floor of the cave. They call that the Texas toothpick. Because, you know, people in Texas have to believe everything there's bigger. But there's another
stalactite.
Well, excuse me.
Remember the one with the C is on the ceiling.
Oh, I always heard it was tight because it held on to the ceiling, or it was mighty because it rose up from the ground. I thought that's how I remembered them. I didn't know the C part. I should know. If I know that would make me say it right. Oh my goodness, my wife was on the Popeye show in Knoxville for a birthday party. I mean, that's what a big deal Popeye was back then. Were you the birthday girl, Brenda? I don't remember. Rhonda says she'd wish she'd know. What part is that, Rhonda? I've been spelling stalactite wrong for years. Hold tight to a stalactite. Stalactite. Well, good spelling there, school teacher. Come on, Carol. Don't give her a big head now. Now I'm going to have to, put up with that all day. You're held in high regard here, so that means she's going to buy into that. Oh, the ceiling thing, yeah. Well, that's just how somebody taught me to remember it when I was a yonker. So I just knew tight meant they're hanging on, and might meant they're defying gravity, I guess, going up. But anyway, that person, male or female, seems to be awestruck at the sight. And here's a picture of that lunchroom going full bore. I mean, the tables, the little picnic tables over there, which are, if you'll notice, are half tables. They only have benches on one side. And then I'm guessing this is
what are those items?
I'm thinking those must be box lunches.
Box lunches?
That's what I think so. Maybe on certain days you could just get whatever was in that line. This area looks different. I don't know if we saw this area well in that other photo, but maybe that's how this one worked. Maybe you had to walk in, or maybe you had a choice. Maybe you could get these and nothing else. But or go around and get something else. But the way that's set up, it looks like that interior part of that, they prepared everything and then set it out on those benches or tables or counters and just walked through and you picked out a box. That's a lot of boxes.
It looks like a bomb factory from 1942 or something.
Yeah, it does.
Rosie the Riveter's in there like cranking it for America.
Yeah. I just thought that was amazing. Yeah, I see those starry eyes. Brenda is a star. Teddy's a star. And yep, that about sums it up. Thank you, Carol. I appreciate that. Carol knows how to keep me in my place. And here's some more of the sites. They use lights very well in here. I mean, it does. I mean, it makes these formations and things really pop, which is really good because that keeps people coming back for more. Oh, I put that picture in there twice. Dang. Sorry about that. I'm sure I had something else I could have used.
It's cool.
Now, there's the road to hell. There's a better picture of that road down, the path down.
That would be a miserable hump up out of there.
Yes, it would. And it really goes down a little further than you can see even in that, because that's a lot of switchbacks in a short little area.
Well, the funny thing about about the cavern and the bats is that the bats are using like one chamber, and they're not all over in that place. They got one big room they hang out in, and that's where they stay, and always apparently always have.
Yeah, and you can put a lot of bats in a pretty small area because they cluster up so closely in a colony that you can have thousands of bats in the size of my roof or ceiling.
Yeah,
or half of it probably. And so inside a cave like that, one big chamber can hold a lot of bats. And we have a southern expression for that I'm not going to use in this setting, but it's a lot of bats. And it's quite amazing. And when we went through the cave, I don't remember seeing bats in the cave anywhere else. There may have been a few scattered around hanging on the wall or something, but I don't remember them.
About all the species are clustering in the same cavern.
Yeah, that's
same part of cavern, and it must just be because the humidity and temperatures are just perfect or whatever. But they tried forever to try to estimate bat numbers, and they finally technology has gotten to the point where they set up some kind of electronic arrays that the bats are flying through, and it was literally ticking them off as they came through there, and they got pretty good counts on how many bats were using it. So
I didn't
used to be they'd just say it was a bunch, but that's just an estimate.
Well, they used to go on bat counts, and I'm not sure what all they used, but you kind of try to count groups of bats as they come out and then sort of guesstimate, what you get in the end. You might have a half a dozen people sitting there counting. And I mean, flocks of birds and things. Because I never did that. I don't know. You probably had to do some counting, but
waterfowl, lots of waterfowl.
Yeah, waterfowl. Yeah. And I asked the guys one time, I said, "How do you really get a good count?" And they said, "Well,
you don't.
You don't, but you learn to get a pretty good. You kind of learn to pick out a group and count the best you can, and so that's just kind of how you do it." They are amazing, Carol. I wish I could say they were mine. I did borrow them, but when I was there, I was probably, if I had a camera back then, I didn't get to take my good camera on a trip like this because I didn't want to have to carry it in the backpack. But I probably had some kind of little Instamatic camera, a Kodak or something, which would not have done any of these justice.
A brownie.
Yeah, basically a modern brownie. But it's a beautiful. I mean, it is a beautiful cavern. If you're ever down that way, go see. And what I didn't get to do was I didn't get to watch the bats come out, and that was disappointing for us, or at least for me. Even back then, I wanted to see the bats come out. Once I heard about them and knew about them, we didn't get to stay because we were on a time schedule. And we had to do this and then get back on the bus and head north to northern New Mexico to go to Philmont Scout Ranch. So we weren't there very long. Well, just long enough to take the tour, basically, and look around. And then they gathered us up and put us back on the road. And I think that same day we stopped at White Sands Missile Base and got out and walked around for a few minutes and then got back on the bus and went on up and finished the trip. But these things stuck with me, that's for sure.
Uh-oh.
Oh no. Be careful, Mike. She might use it on you.
She's got a hammer, and I need to see what she's doing. That is a fact in my home. I can like, hey, what are you doing?
Where are you going with that? That just seems like a scene out of a home improvement show or Jackie Gleason. You know, somebody walks by with a hammer in their hand, and then somebody realizes, whoa, what are they doing with the hammer?
My wife's always hanging like a 50-pound photograph on a or up on a like a little finishing nail or something.
Uh-oh. My Ian says, oh wow, Mike, that's a sentence.
No, our next song's gonna be Hammer
Time. Good catch. Good catch, Carol. I knew you'd be good at that job.
Hammer time.
So anybody got any more questions or comments about cave? Because I believe the next photo is a different location. I'm back using when she's walking around with one of my tools that leads into a project for me. Yeah, I know how that works. Because they go get your tools and kind of lay them out, and then they say, well, I'm getting ready to fix such and such. Really, the whole thing is they wanted you to do it. So that's how they bait you in. That's a wife trick or a woman trick. And I don't care if you ladies give me hell for that. That's the truth, and you know it. No, Ian said, stop, hammer time. If I could sing it, I would. I sure ain't going to get up and dance it. Okay.
You don't have your MC Hammer pants on.
I don't have my pants on. That's exactly right. I thought I had another picture of this. I guess I didn't. This is part of. Was that statue there?
That's not bats.
No, I'm going to Blackwater Creek. Is that it?
Blackwater Draw.
Blackwater Draw. Is any of these things? Does that bone display look familiar? It may not be in the museum, but
the statue doesn't. I don't know where that's at.
It's supposed to be outside the visitor center or something there. I didn't know if you might have seen it or
it's not. There's no that country's just bone dry and deserty, and that's not. That might be on the campus of Eastern New Mexico State University.
Oh, okay.
Where they have they have two museums associated with this site, and one of them is out on the location where the actual dig occurred, and the other one is on campus in Portales, on that Eastern New Mexico State University. But for those that don't know, this is the place where they first discovered human stuff with mammoths.
Hang on a minute. We might have to break up a fight here. Let me see what's going on.
Who's fighting?
Well, Ian says that's a woman trick that works well. And then Brenda says, oh, this is why she went to the birthday party. Some rotten kid in the neighborhood had a birthday. And then Tina says, this is no trick. Who else is going to do it? And Mike thought that was funny. And then Rhonda said, well, if y'all had more initiative, wink, wink, if. And Carol says, Brenda, it's not nice to call Rhonda a rotten kid. That sounds tiring, Rhonda. Carol is instigating again. Well, Carol, she's allowed. I mean, she is allowed, Rhonda, because Carol spends her time in the week and during the day when she has to maintain order in the classroom and make sure kids don't have a good time or instigate anything. And so she gets to come in here and make up for that. And I'll give her that.
Make sure kids don't have a good time.
Right. Well, it's school. Nobody said you were supposed to have fun. Somebody told me that once. In school, you're not supposed to have fun at school. You're supposed to be learning. No, Carol, you're quite all right. If Rhonda's rotten, Rhonda's rotten. So anyway, I don't have, this is the only one, but Mark went to a couple of places. That one picture looks like the big chocolate chip cookies. Which one?
Big chocolate chip cookie.
I know what she's talking about. You won't know. How many of you ever went to Disney World back? I don't think it's there anymore, but it used to be in Space Mountain. When you're standing there in line or you're riding the coaster in the dark, up on the ceiling where they project the stars, an asteroid would come through every once in a while, just, coming shooting across or drifting across the sky in the heavens there. And the more you looked at that asteroid, the more it looked to me like a Chip Ahoy cookie or something they put up there and used for the asteroid. Broke the edges off so it wasn't perfectly round, but I swear it looked like it had chocolate chips in it, and it looked like the surface looked like a cookie. And I bet anything that's what the Imagineers used. But anyway, so back to the Clovis people. That they were the first ones found with mammals in this country, right? Is that mammoths, right? That what you just said? I'm gonna.
Correct. For a long time, they thought they were the first humans to live in North America. And now they're revising that because they're finding older cultures, even older than Clovis.
Well, the footprints that we talked about recently, and I thought I put a picture of that in here too, at White Sands that they've uncovered recently or whatever, are older, correct?
Correct. And they've found some quite a bit of stuff in some places in Texas and things that are below the Clovis layer. So they're, a few thousand years older, maybe, or maybe even more than that than Clovis. But these guys were mammoth hunting specialists, and they made those beautiful points, they call those fluted points or Clovis points, that they killed elephants with, basically. And
hey, good morning, Space Mountain. They were just talking about Space Mountain. You missed it.
And this site was the first place they ever found human remains with mammoth remains.
That's cool. That is cool.
To me,
I don't know if they found human remains where they found that big dig recently in Europe or England. I don't know if they found human remains there. They just found a lot of mammoths.
They did find points there too.
Right. Okay. Well, that's true.
And I don't mean human remains as in the bodies of humans. I mean stuff that humans made associated with the kill. And
Hang on just a minute. Hang on. Carol, you don't even know the half of it. I don't like to argue with her either because I sleep here at night and she sneaks up on me sometimes at night, and she could be carrying a gun or a knife or a hatchet like what's her name? I can't think of the name. Who chopped up her father? Brent, I'm sure somebody will tell me in a minute, but there's a song. Gave her father 40 whacks. Who did that? So I have to be careful what I say. Okay, Rhonda. She's taking the dog for a walk. We're thinking about taking our old cat Spooky for a walk. Yeah, look at those halos over her head. Lizzie Borden, thank you, Tina. Brenda's halo. She's just a little angel. Yeah, right. Our oldest cat, I think he's looking for the Rainbow Bridge myself, but he wants to go outside. So we're going to try to see if he'll. I'm not going to let him loose to run, but I think he's looking for a tree. I'm beginning to think he's looking for a tree to sit down beside and wait for the end. Anyway, I'm caught up. So let's talk more Clovis. Now, see, I always wondered, the Clovis name. I would, I mean, if I picked that point up, I would probably call it a Clovis point. Just
It
because
is a Clovis
I
point.
know, but I didn't know exactly what that meant at one time. If that was the people that made it or the style of point it was, which makes perfect sense now that I know better. But I mean, the Clovis people would have made a Clovis point, but so I wasn't sure if it was a technique or a name of people's. So
It wasn't either one. It's named after Clovis, New Mexico, the town right there by Portales. It actually ought to be a Portales point because that's where it is. It's not in Clovis. Clovis, New Mexico that's where they found that was the town that the scientist guys from National Geographic stayed, or from the Smithsonian. They stayed at Clovis. They didn't stay in Portales, and so these became known as Clovis points.
are these found anywhere else in the world? Because I thought I saw some spots.
They're all over, in Tennessee's full of them.
Oh, I mean Europe or Asia.
No, they've never been made anywhere else on the planet.
Okay.
They're a North American invention. There's some guys that have tried to link this point style, the technique to build it, which is different than most napping. It's very well thought out and deliberate, and they're pretty hard to make. And there's a set of points over in southwestern France and Italy and Spain, called the Solutrean technology. And it's very similar in how the points are constructed.
Okay.
But not with these flutes. There's a few fluted points from that area, but most of it weren't fluted. But the method that they used to make these big blades was very similar. And there's been some Bruce Bradley from the University of Exeter in England, and he's actually a Wyoming boy that teaches over there now. But he and a fellow named Dennis Stanford, I think, that's passed away. He was with the Smithsonian. They tried to make a link that there's a hypothesis that people, not only did they come across the Bering Land Bridge, but they also walked the sea ice from Europe over to North America. And they think that those guys, were proponents of that Solutrean was a precursor to Clovis. And whether that's true or not, we may never know. But there's a lot of interesting evidence that they've been dealing with. There's the highest density of Clovis points is actually in the east, like in John's country. There's lots of them in Rhode Island and Delaware,
Really?
And New Jersey, and
so up along the coast,
and then Kentucky and Tennessee, and the highest density is in that part of the world, not in the West.
But that's only recently they discovered that, though. Didn't you tell me that?
Yeah, I mean, over the last few decades, they've been finding more and more stuff back east, and they find a lot of stuff off the coast because the coastline used to be a lot further out than it is now. Because all the water was tied up in ice. So some of these coastlines around Florida's full of this stuff, and large extinct mammals. And anyway, but this was the first site. It's kind of, if you're an arrowhead or spear point flint napping junkie like me, this is kind of like Mecca.
Yeah, which is why you were there.
Which is why I was there. My daughter, who's
You know,
never.
it makes sense though, and I don't know, we can talk about this later, but you know, does make sense that maybe this technology or these people came across the ice that way and down through. If you think about that path you just described of where they find points, may have come from that direction and worked their way towards the west rather
Well, and
than vice
I mean,
versa.
that's Bradley and Stanford's. That's what they thought was that the Americas were peopled, and these people weren't like red-headed, green-eyed Europeans that came.
Right.
You know, it was too early for that still, and they always contended that the Americas were peopled from a variety of methods. You know,
Well, I would believe that. That makes sense to me.
walking the land bridge, you know, crossing the land bridge, and there's a coastal hypothesis that the people came from that same part of the world, Asia, across, but they were following the coast in boats, and they think that probably happened. And then this Solutrean hypothesis is the most controversial because nobody wants to say that like people came from Europe to get here.
Which is a fascinating conundrum. Maybe we'll talk about someday. The resistance, as more and more evidence of things is discovered, the resistance to that change and
It's huge.
the resistance is far greater than I ever imagined it would be. I mean, I I look at science as discoveries, and you work with the data and what you find, and you know history can change, and because it was fluid for one thing, and it still is, and as we discover more, we learn more. But there is a physical wall almost that is thrown up by certain scholars and academia that doesn't want to talk about those changes because they're set. You know, the books are written the way they are, and they don't want to change them, and which I find discouraging.
Well,
But
and you know, people have so folks have really fought. There's been like this entrenched view that there were no people here ever before Clovis. That that's just anything they're finding that goes against that thinking is an accident or something, and they're finding sites all over now. I mean, back east, down in the South America, they've got some sites that are really old, and that's really, they're
bye,
really,
Ian. Thanks for coming in. Have a good rest of your day. Tell your coworkers that you know you had to be here. If they don't understand, have them call me. I may or may not take the call, but I will answer them. See you later, buddy. Thanks for coming in. Seriously. And Carol, you had a good comment there. I meant to put up, and I should have gone ahead and put it up, not read it. That would have been a lot better. But wouldn't have interrupted. But it is fascinating how we can take these pieces and bits and fit this stuff together. And I mean, just like that sculpture at the top. I mean, that's obviously not a prehistoric man pulling a spear out of a real mastodon or a mammoth, but that we can put enough stuff together to know that it might look something like that, and maybe very well could have been very similar to that. And I think that's fascinating too. I don't know where that came from or what it is, but they may very well have found a skeleton, a fossil of one of those critters, and it may have had a spearhead in its skull, or a big flint point of some kind.
well, that's exactly what Blackwater Draw is.
Yeah, well,
It's elephant skeletons with stone points stuck in the bones.
yeah.
And I mean, elephants. Like I guess I'd never been around enough pieces, parts of mammoths, but the tusks on one of those, the diameter of the tusk was like 15 inches. I never.
Jeez.
I mean, it was enormous.
Yeah, I didn't realize they were that big. I knew they got long, and I figured they were pretty big, but I haven't seen one either.
And so the site that they dug this up at was a wetland at one point, the edge of a wetland. And they've got 11,000 plus years of human occupation there that they've found all the way to Clovis and elephants up
Wow.
to steel arrowheads and bison parts, at that same site.
Wow.
And then there's no way you could live there today. It's hot and dry and no water at all. And what was that?
That was spooky.
Did you just step on a cat's tail?
Oh no, that's him hollering. As he's gotten older, he's gotten a lot more vocal. Come here. And I don't know if it's because he's getting hard of hearing, but when he meows loud. It feels like he's yelling at me, which he probably is. Well, I do believe that was the last slide I had, but there is one more thing we must talk about. Yep. All right, let me unshare that and figure out how to close it. In Mark's travels, he also took another side trip.
No.
Tell us where you went, Mark.
Well, we went to catch us an alien.
Mark went to.
We went to the Alien Museum in Roswell.
Could you put out?
And my son-in-law had more fun at that place. He, as he would say, he geeked out entirely on that place, and we got to see all the fun stuff that happened around Roswell.
That reminds me of something else we did. We skipped right over earlier, and that was your son-in-law's costume at the Batcave.
Oh yeah, so he wore his Batman suit up to the Batcave there, and we had people from all over the world. We had a German couple and some other folks that wanted their photos taken with him because they were really into bats. So
I thought that was both hilarious and
I told everybody we walked by that he lost a bet.
Which wasn't true at all.
Which wasn't true at all. He did it on purpose.
Probably enjoyed it all. But anyway, back to the aliens.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite the attraction there in Roswell. The whole downtown part of Roswell is totally surrounds that alien stuff that they did, the crash and all that stuff. So yeah, fun, and they have a giant museum just dedicated to that alien stuff. So
Carol, think about this for a minute. If you were ever a fan of the Big Bang Theory, think about those kind of smart people and how nerdy some of them were. And I don't mean this in a bad way at all, but that's sort of Mark's daughter and her significant other, Jesse. They geek out too. I don't know that Caitlin would wear a bat costume.
They're super intelligent, and they can wander off of.
So they're sort of like Sheldon. They might wander off and get lost, and they might wear a Batman costume to Carlsbad.
Sometimes they're half a bubble off a plum.
They right the ship. Yeah, Mike, that's a good point. I think you mean at Roswell. So,
it was fun. It was. I mean, it wouldn't have been something if it just been me. I never would. I would have driven miles out of my way to avoid it. But it was it was a fun experience to watch all those people or aliens or whatever they were. Because there were some strange folks walking about in town there.
Rhonda says that reminds her of half the people in Atlanta. Having walked through some of Atlanta, I'd probably agree.
Yeah, hot Atlanta.
Now, I think if you walk around any, this might not be the only thing that appeals to them in Atlanta, but if you walk in any town that's got a big university or a college, you're gonna see things that you might not see in other places. I think
see some stuff.
Well, Micos are always, that being left there's always a
here, take him back.
You just never know about these things. That's a risk you kind of have to take. Oh no more hot Atlanta, hun. Rhonda, that's what it used to. That's what everybody used to call it. I'm glad you passed that along. I'll make sure not to do that anymore.
No one from Atlanta says hot Atlanta.
Everybody, I've heard that called that for years.
It's what we always called it.
But anyway, and after all this journey, they made it back home. So colleges are time back to the adults. Just look up Dragon Con videos. You know what? I need to do that, Rhonda. Do you have anything posted? You went to that, right? Or you went to some convention recently? I'd love to get you on here if you've got photos or videos. We'd show them and talk about it. I may never have done it, but I can certainly look at it and laugh and enjoy it for that matter. That's how we tell people aren't. Yeah. People in Florida used to do that too, because there's a lot of, I guess, Seminole names in Florida, and Floridians have a way they say everything, and they can listen. And most people, Paca or Apalachicola or there's other places out west is that way too. They don't say things the way they look. Well, that'd be cool, Ron. If you haven't, is it already on YouTube? And you're welcome. If you want to post a link, I'll make you a mod so you can post the link. You are a mod. You can post a link anyway. Same with Northeast Ohio. Lots of Native American names. Yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, Tennessee's got a lot of Cherokee names, but they're kind of, I don't know, they kind of look how they sound. But some places that's not always the case. I'd love to watch it, Ron. That'd be great. Anyway, that was sounds like a fun trip, I have to say. Other than the weather, I really hate that the weather was like that. I don't know. That may become more the norm than the not.
Well, we got to Dove Creek, Colorado, and the temperature was about 75 degrees, and I thought, thank God.
It ain't all the way up here yet. That's good. I don't know. I start to say altitude, but I'm not sure what altitude that part of New Mexico.
It's high. It's some of that's like 7,200 feet.
That's what I thought.
High. A lot higher than I was remembering.
Yeah.
Especially around Carlsbad. Carlsbad, the caverns are about 7,200, 7,300.
Really?
Feet. Yeah.
I didn't realize that either.
Yeah, but it's a hot heat.
Hey Tony, where are you riding coasters at today? Brenda's leaving. She's getting ready for time for Brenda's nap. Phantasmic Chronicles is here. Thanks, guys. And where are you riding coasters at today? Rhonda, most of the Ohio towns have Native American names. Yes, that's very true. Like Chillicothe. Well, I don't know if that was.
And Columbus.
Yeah. I started to correct myself and say it's Chillicothe, the
Chillicothe.
Americanized version of that word. I'm not sure about that.
Chilagatha.
Is that it?
Yeah, well, that's what Eckert called it. Who knows if that's accurate or not?
Oh, okay. I can't remember. Couldn't remember.
And the Ohio was the Spelawatipi.
Oh, he's up at Cedar Point. Well, we've got some other Cedar Point fans here somewhere. Dragon Con Parade link there, guys. If anybody wants it, by all means, go check that out. That's Rhonda's video of the parade they had, and I bet that's going to be interesting. Mark, you might want to. I'll send that to you if you can't copy and paste it or something. You might want to send that to your daughters. They might enjoy that. And
Yeah,
Rhonda,
I bet. Well, they go to the Comic Con every year. They're in El Paso.
my Tony's Rhonda says I grew up near Cleveland. It was hilarious when we got new newscasters from other places. Yeah, that is funny. Well, and there is Car Key also posted it. Thank you, Carol. Although yours looks different. Why does yours look different? I'm going to open it. Hang on just a minute. Dragon Con. Oh, yeah. Do you mind if I put it on the screen for a minute, Carol? Or not Carol, Rhonda? DC. It's fan run. SDCC. Rhonda, I'm not, you're over my head there. 80,000 of your closest friends over Labor Day weekend. Do you mind if I show some of this on here? Okay, thank you. I'm going to try to. Yeah, this ought to work. At least a little bit. Well, it's not very long. I can show it. Here we go. Oh, good Klingon. Well, that's a pretty good Darth Vader. That's a starfighter. Well, not, it's powered by the Force. What's that got? Well, there was a handsome fellow. There's Luke's land speeder. Well, I can't remember what those guys are called. Oh, wow. Look at that thing. That's cool. That's one of those garbage disposal things. Those little guys running around in. Those guys. They put a lot of effort into that. Jawa horse or something. R2D2 was there. And I believe that is there's young Luke. Ewoks. Stormtroopers. Former. What was saying?
Just that big boom box that guy was packing.
Oh, I missed that. I wasn't looking at that page at the moment. Wow, who is he? I don't remember him. I don't remember her, but she looks kind of familiar. Oh, that's a stormtrooper. That's a bad dude there. Thank you, Rhonda, for sharing that. I must admit that does look interesting. I bet that was fun. I'm sure that it got even crazier. I think that's channel. The guy in the ponytail is from Two Real Geeks. Oh, really? Okay, Tony, I'll go look. In fact, I've got it open, so I'll just look now. Oh, okay, Tony. I'll try to tune in for that. Thank you. If anybody, well, I don't know if it's listed yet, but Tony's going to be streaming later, so you guys, if you're interested in Cedar Point, you might keep an eye out for some of his video. Oh, that one is just the Star Wars stuff in 2018. So you have another one? Maybe I put the wrong one up. Hang on just a minute. Let me see if I've got another one, because I did get another address. Oh, this might be. Oh, no, that's 2019. Hang on one more minute, Mark, and we'll. No, that's just 2019 also. The wildest Dragon Con parade I've ever attended. That was by Mr. The Daily Woo. Oh, there's the carpetbagger. I'll have to admit, he's a funny guy. Well, anyway, there you are, Rhonda. Well, that's 2019, but you're there. I'll be checking those out later. Well, folks, it's about noonish, noon 13. Mark, don't run off yet. Let me
You're
talk
going
to
to
you.
have to hurry today.
Okay, I can do that, but you need to hang on 1 minute.
I got a kids fishing deal to get to.
Oh, what time you need to be there? I need to let you go. Do what?
Shortly.
Okay.
Very shortly.
Anyway, guys, thanks for coming in this morning, and really appreciate all of you being here. I've had a good time. I hope you have too. Okay, Rhonda, I got you. That was it. I didn't think about that. I didn't think about the pandemic. So anyway, everybody go take a look at that later and watch out for Tony's videos. So let's cut everybody out here and let you go do something else. I'm sure if it's sunshine where you're at, you might have something better to do. I'm pretty sure anything would be better to do than hang out here. So I may lose my voice. So
no,
good Lord,
we wouldn't be here.
Good, true. Good Lord's willing and the creek don't rise. I'll see y'all again here next Saturday morning, bright and early. Goodbye.